In Volume 6 of our series, Goal Setting and Goal Achievement, Jim will present the main strategy that his mentor, Earl Schoaf, taught him that was responsible for dramatically increasing his performance. And while you may have heard other presentations on this idea in other audio programs from other speakers, you've never heard it presented in as unforgettable and useful a way as Jim Rohn did. From the why of goal setting to one of his classic goal-setting sessions, you'll leave this session with the very best Jim ever presented on this crucial success strategy.
Of all the things that changed my life for the better most quickly, it was learning how to set goals. And mastering this unique process can have a powerful effect on your life too. One morning at breakfast, shortly after I met Mr. Schoaf, he asked me if he could see my current list of goals. He said, "Let me see your list of goals, and let's go over them and talk about them. Maybe that's the best way I can help you right now." And I said, "I don't have a list." He said, "Well, is it out in the car or at home somewhere?" I said, "No, sir, I don't have a list anywhere." He said, "Well, young man, that's where we better start." Then he added, "If you don't have a list of your goals, I can guess your bank balance within a few $100s, which he did, and that got my attention. I said, "You mean that if I had a list of goals, that would change my bank balance?" He said, "Drastically." That day I became a student of how to set goals, and sure enough, when I learned how, my whole life changed. My income, my bank account, my personality, my lifestyle, my accomplishments. So I'd like to share with you the best I have learned and practiced on goal setting. First of all, I'd like to say that we are all affected by 5 factors. The first is environment. The second is events. The third is knowledge. The fourth is results. And the fifth, and often overlooked factor that affects our lives is our view of the future. Our dreams. I won't get into all of these influences here, but let me concentrate on the fifth one. Dreams. Of all these 5 influences, make sure your dreams are the greatest influence on your daily decisions and activities. Put another way, make sure that the greatest pull on you is the pull of the future. For your dreams to greatly influence you, for the future to pull you, your future must be well planned. There are 2 ways to face the future. One is with apprehension, the other with anticipation. Guess how many people face the future with apprehension? Why? They don't have it well designed. And without really thinking about it, they have probably bought someone else's view of how to live. You will face the future with anticipation when you have planned a future you can get excited about, when you have designed your future results in advance. In this way, the future will capture your imagination. It will exert an enormous influence on you. And to design your future, you must have goals. Well-defined goals are like a magnet. They pull you in their direction, and the better you have defined them, the better you have described them, the harder you work on them, the stronger they pull. And they pull you through all kinds of difficulties, too. Without goals, it is easy to let life deteriorate to the point where you're just making a living. It is not difficult to get trapped by economic necessity and settle for existence rather than substance. We all have a choice. We can either make a living or design a life. Mr. Schoaf said to me, "I don't think your current bank balance is a true indicator of your level of intelligence." I was happy to hear that. He said, "I think you have plenty of talent and ability, and that you're much smarter than your bank balance indicates." And that turned out to be true. I was much smarter. My question to him was, then why isn't my bank balance bigger? And he said, "You don't have enough reasons for accomplishing great things. If you had enough reasons, you could do incredible things. You have enough intelligence, but not enough reasons." That's the key. If you had enough reasons. In my years of study, I've also discovered this. Reasons come first, and answers come second. Life has a strange way of hiding all the answers and disclosing them only to people who have been inspired to look for them, who have reasons to look for them. Put another way, when you know what you want, and you want it badly enough, you will find ways to get it. The answers, the methods, the solutions will become evident to you. Hey, what if you had to be rich? Are there any books and tapes on the subject? The answer is yes. There are plenty of good ones. But if you don't have to be rich, you probably won't read the books or listen to the tapes. What drives us to find the answers is necessity. So work on your reasons first, answer second. Now, what are some of the reasons for doing well? It varies from person to person. I'm sure that if you did a little soul searching, you could come up with a fairly strong list of reasons why you want to accomplish great things. There are personal reasons, sometimes uniquely personal reasons. Some people do well for the recognition. Some do well because of the way it makes them feel. They love the feeling of being a winner. That's one of the best reasons. I have some millionaire friends who keep working 10 to 12 hours a day, making more millions. And it's not because they need the money. It's because of the joy, pleasure, and satisfaction that come to them from being constant winners. To them, money is not their main drive. It's not the money. It's the journey. Once in a while, someone says to me, "If I had $1 million, I'd never work another day in my life." Hey, that's probably why the good Lord sees to it that he doesn't get his million. Because he'd just quit. Family is another reason, or motivator for doing well. Some people do extremely well because of other people. And that's a powerful reason. Sometimes we will do things for someone else that we would not do for ourselves. We are made that way. I met a man who once said to me, Mr. Rohn, to do everything I want to do around the world with my family, I need at least $250,000 a year. I thought, incredible. Could a man's family affect him that much? And the answer is, of course. How fortunate are the people who find themselves greatly affected by someone else? It's powerful. Benevolence, the desire to share, can be a powerful reason for wanting to achieve. Some people do extremely well gathering up resources, so they can then be benefactors. When Andrew Carnegie, the great steel magnate, died, his desk was opened, and in one of the desk drawers was found a slip of paper. On that slip of paper, Mr. Carnegie had written his goal for his life, and he wrote it when he was in his 20s. On that slip of paper he had written, I'm going to spend the first half of my life accumulating money. I'm going to spend the last half of my life giving it all away. That's terrific. He was so inspired by that goal that during the first half of his life he accumulated $450 million. And during the last half of his life, he gave it all away. How powerful. What has you turned on? What has you getting up early, hitting it hard all day and staying up late? What has you inspired? Next question. What's got you turned off? When I found the answers to those two questions, my life exploded into change. I finally found out what negative philosophy of life I had allowed to limit me and had me turned off, and I got that cured. Then I found a long enough list of reasons to turn me on, and once the lights went on for me, at age 25, they have never gone out. I've fallen out of the sky a few times, but I've never lost that drive to do something unique with my life. Here's how simple now goal setting is. It's not mysterious. You don't have to anchor, you don't have to focus, you don't have to visualize. None of that stuff. Here's how simple goal setting is. Change my life. Decide what you want and write it down. I mean, that's how profound this stuff is. Decide what you want and write it down. Make a list. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What do you want to see? What do you want to be? What do you want to have? What do you want to share? What projects would you like to support? What would you like to be known for? What skills would you like to learn? Some extraordinary things you'd like to do? Ordinary things you'd like to do? Right? Silly little things you'd like to do? Very important things you'd like to do? Decide on all that stuff and write it down, write it down, write it down. That's how simple this stuff is. And it's your own private list. If it's really private, on your list, put some stuff in code where nobody can understand it if this list fell into unfriendly hands. Okay. And simple things, whatever. Foolish things, doesn't matter. It's your list. I had a little revenge on my first list. Budget finance, who used to harass me. I got 2 or 3 payments behind. This one guy called incessantly. Said, we're going to come get your car, drag it rear end up down the street in front of your neighbors. Put me down something fierce. When I met Shof, got my life straightened out, one of the first things on one of my lists was budget finance. And when I finally got the money, I needed a little drama in my life. Finally got the money to pay him off. I put it in small bills in a big briefcase. Walked into the budget finance office on Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles. The guy who harassed me so often, his desk was about 3 back. I opened the door, walked in, right up to his desk, stood right in front of it, never said a word. He said, well, what are you doing here? Didn't say a word. I opened up this briefcase, dumped this pile of money all over his desk. I said, count it. It's all there. I'll never be back. Turned around, walked out, slammed the door. Now that might not be noble, but you got to try it at least one time. Pay off with a little drama. Got to check them off my list. Keep your list with you. I keep my list in my journal so that I can go back 5 years ago. Here was my list, and I'm a little embarrassed. Here's what I thought was so important now. How my philosophy has changed from 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. Here's my old list. Here's my new list. Here's what's valuable to me now. Here's what I want my life to be now. Here's where I want to go, what I want to do, what I want to see. Keep your lists of goals so that it shows your growth, shows your ability to change and grow. Your philosophy grows and expands. What's valuable? Setting goals. It doesn't matter how small, foolish it is. Put it on your list. My Japanese friend, Toro Ikeda, put on his first list, a Caucasian gardener. Good morning. Thought that was good. I like that. Have you got this profound thing now on setting goals? Here's how profound it is. Decide what you want, write it down. Get together with your wife, decide. Get together with your kids, decide. Get together with your business colleagues, decide. Write it down, make a list. Okay, that's how easy it is. Now let me give you one more scenario on setting goals. When I started making my first list, Mr. Shof said, Mr. Rohn, looks like we're going to be together for a while. He said, I've got a suggestion for you. He said, I think one of the first goals you ought to set, you're a 25-year-old American male, sure you've made some mistakes, but now you're on the road to better things. You got a family, worth it. Reasons makes the difference. And he said, you've got every reason to do this. He said, why don't you, among all the goals you're going to set, why don't you set a goal to become a millionaire? A millionaire. This is America. All the possibilities are available. Why don't you set a goal to become a millionaire? He said, it's got a nice ring to it. Millionaire. Enough zeros to impress your accountant? Millionaire. And he said, here's why. Now I thought, the man doesn't need to teach me why. I'm thinking, wouldn't it be great to have $1 million? He said, no, that's not it. Here's why. And I had one of the greatest lessons I ever learned, and I'm about to share it with you. This will be worth the price of being here today if you can capture what I'm about to share with you. Here's what Mr. Shoaff said. Set a goal to become a millionaire. And he said, here's why. For what it will make of you to achieve it. And I got one of the greatest classes in one sentence I've ever received in my life. Set a goal that'll make you stretch that far. For what it will make of you to achieve it. What a brand new reason for setting goals. What an all-encompassing challenge to have a better vision of the future. What for? To see what it will make of you to achieve it. And here's why. The greatest value in life is not what you get. The greatest value in life is what you become. Major question to ask on the job is not, what am I getting here? That's not the major question. The major question to ask is, what am I becoming here? It's not what you get that makes you valuable. It's what you become that makes you valuable. So Shoaff said, set a goal to become a millionaire. For what it will make of you to achieve it. Let me give you the key phrase on setting goals. Set the kind of goals that will make something of you to achieve them. Set the kind of goals that will make something of you to achieve them. Always keep that in mind. What will this make of me? If I set this goal and go for it, not only will I achieve it, but what will it make of me in the process? What a whole new concept on setting goals. Now there's two parts to this, and then we're wrapping up goals. Here's the first part now in this goal setting for what you become. Number one, don't set your goals too low. Interesting, we teach in leadership. Don't join an easy crowd. You won't grow. Go where the expectations are high. Go where the demands are high. Go where the pressure's on to perform, to grow, to change, to develop, to read, to study, to develop skills. I belong to a small group. We do business around the world. You cannot believe the expectations at that level. What we expect of each other in terms of excellence. Far beyond average. Why? So that we can each grow, so that we can receive from the group, we can contribute to the group. Something unprecedented. It's called living at the summit. Go where the demands are high. Go where the expectations are strong, so that it'll provoke you, push you, urgently insist that you not remain the same for the next couple of years, the next 5 years, that you'll grow and change. So don't set your goals too low. The guy says, well, I don't need much. Well, then you don't need to become much. Now here's the last part on setting goals. Don't compromise. Don't sell out. There were some things I went for back in those early years that I paid too big a price for. If I'd have known how much it was going to cost me, I never would have paid, but I didn't know. Don't sell out. Ancient phrase says, count the cost, count the cost, count the cost. An ancient story says, Judas got the money. You say, well, that's a success story. No. It's true, 30 pieces of silver in those days was a sizable fortune. You say, well, if a guy's got a fortune, right, that's a success story. No, you don't understand. His name was Judas. Doesn't that ring a bell? Judas. You say, oh, yes, Judas, the traitor. That's right, the traitor got the money. Doesn't that change the story? And the answer is, of course, it changes the story. Interestingly enough, after Judas gets the money from becoming a traitor, he's got the money in his hot little hand, and now he's unhappy. Somebody says, well, if you had a fortune, how could you be unhappy? Well, he wasn't unhappy with the money. He was unhappy with himself. Key phrase, the greatest source of unhappiness is self-unhappiness. The greatest source of unhappiness doesn't come from outside. The greatest source of unhappiness comes from inside. And here's where the erosion starts, doing a little less than you could. That's where the beginning little infection of unhappiness starts, doing a little less than you can, not feeling that good about yourself. So don't let that happen. Judas is unhappy. He says, what'll I do? He says, oh, I'll just take the money back. Walked in where he got the money and said, here, take this money. I'm unhappy. They said, heck with you, Judas. We got what we wanted. You got what you wanted. Out. They threw him out with his money. Judas says, well, what'll I do now? He says, oh, clever. Should have thought of this first. I'll just throw the money away. And he proceeded to throw his fortune away. Why would he throw his fortune away? He was so unhappy with himself. And that's not even the end of the scenario. After he threw his fortune away, he couldn't change what he became, a traitor. And now, in total abject frustration, he goes out and hangs his worthless self. Why such a tragic end? Because he was so unhappy with himself. He sold out. He paid too big a price. Ancient script sums it all up and said, what if you gained the whole world and it cost you your soul? Too big a price to pay if you got the whole world. Don't sell out. Don't compromise your values. Don't compromise your virtues. Don't compromise your philosophy. Key. Here's the key word, beware. If Judas could speak back, he'd probably say beware. Two good words from ancient script. One, behold, the positive word. Behold the possibilities, behold the opportunity. Behold the drama, behold the awesomeness, behold the uniqueness. Behold the majesty, behold. What a good word. But here's the other word, beware. Don't sell out. Mark well what you become in pursuit of what you want. But I'm inspiring you, hopefully, to set the kind of goals that will transform your life. Make you far better than you are, far stronger than you are. Positive self-direction. You know who you are and where you want to go. You've already spent a great deal of time thinking about it. You've been working on the parts of your personality that will make you better. Working on your attitude. Working on your health. Working on your time management skills. Putting it all down on paper. And you constantly see yourself in the place that you want to be. As you talk with yourself every day, how often do you ask, Is what I am doing today getting me closer to where I want to be tomorrow? Am I making the daily adjustments necessary? Am I doing all that it takes? Will I keep on doing it until? Direction determines destination. Here's a question you need to ask yourself. Are all of the disciplines that I'm currently engaged in taking me where I want to go? Are all of the disciplines I am presently engaged in taking me where I want to go? What an important question at the beginning of the month, at the beginning of the week, at the beginning of the day. Because here's what you don't want to ever do. Kid yourself. You know, kid your neighbor and kid me and kid the marketplace if you want to, but gosh, you can't kid yourself. With your fingers crossed hoping you'll arrive at a good destination when you're not even headed that way. You say, well, maybe the wind will take me. Well, there's a chance. But you've got to take charge. You've got to ask yourself often, am I? Am I doing the disciplines that are taking me in the direction that I want to go? I don't want to be faked out here and think I'm on the way to financial success when there's not a prayer, not a hope. I don't want to be faked out hoping that there's someone else who's going to take care of it. Take care of me. They're not going to take care of it. They're not going to take care of me. What if all of your negative relatives turn positive? What'll that do for your fortune and your future? Not much. If prices come down a little, what'll that do for your fortune and your future, and your sophistication and your culture? What'll that do? Not much. If the economy gets a little better, what'll that do? Answer, not much. If you don't make plans of your own, you'll fit into someone else's plans. And guess what they have planned for you? You're right, not much. Most people wake up every morning counting on this not much list. And that's why what they have is not much. Not much hope, not much promise, not much progress. They're driving what they don't want to drive, living where they don't want to live, doing what they don't want to do. Forget the thief waiting in the alley to snatch your purse. What about the thief in your mind? Lazy, not stimulated by thoughts and questions. Don't become a victim of yourself. Ask yourself these questions. Is this the direction I want for my life? Is it someone else's direction? Is it a goal that I have been ingrained with since my childhood? Is it my parents' or my spouse's or my boss's or my children's? Is it mine? Ask yourself these questions. Debate them if you will. Debate the ideas I am sharing with you on this program later. After you've heard all the ideas, debate what will work for you and won't work for you. But most importantly, get into the debate of your inner mind. What am I doing that works? What am I doing that doesn't work? Debate it all. Work with your mind to figure out the best possible direction for you. Your self-direction. Your self-direction. You hear stories all the time of kids, middle-class kids, upper-middle-class kids. You hear stories all the time about good kids that are having problems. Their parents are highly successful. They want their kids to be highly successful. But the kids are having problems. Maybe not with their grades, but with how they feel about themselves. The parents push their kids into one career direction, probably to take over the family business or follow in the family footsteps. It's the parents' direction, not the kids' direction. The kids know that something's just not right. And for these kids, something goes wrong. I know this lady that comes from a medical family. Everybody's in medicine. All of the kids grew up and went to school to be in medicine. It's just what you did. You grew up and became a doctor. Now, it wasn't a bad upbringing. They had everything they needed, but they also had the extra push to go into medicine. As a matter of fact, my friend says that they were raised with such tunnel vision that she didn't even have the slightest idea how food got into the grocery store, how cars got into the lots, how money got into the banks. She didn't know. The issues were never brought up at the dinner table. She remembers back in the late 70s, the first time she went to look for a job to make extra money in college, that the best jobs in the paper, the ones for qualified people, were only advertising a monthly salary of $900. $900. She thought the average person on the street, the average non-qualified person, made at least $3,000 a month. What a difference. What a shock. To be so sheltered from real life, to be so far off in what the average person made for a living, it was a real revelation. So she started asking questions. I mean, if she was that far off in her judgment of average earnings, maybe she was way off on other thoughts in life, too. Maybe there was more to life than being in medicine. Maybe this wasn't what she wanted to do after all. Maybe she finally found the reason why she hadn't been happy through all of her academic achievements. Sure enough, she figured out that the medical goals were not her own, only those of her parents. And even though she was chastised by her family for not following through with the family goals, she is now much happier, following her own path. Direction must be your own, or it can end up being damaging. Damaging to your soul, damaging to your spirit, damaging to your health. Now, there's one more part to my friend's story of growing up in a medical family. It's a part that nobody in her family talks much about, yet it happened. And it's an important part to tell. While my friend was pushing for perfection in school, she also pushed herself into an eating disorder. She ended up with this a few years before anyone really knew anything about anorexia. So there wasn't much help available. But a few years later, about the same time she started asking questions about life, she determined with the help of a specialist that this eating disorder had nothing to do with food or the lack of it. It had to do with control. It had to do with direction. Somebody else's direction for her. Direction has to be your own, or it can be damaging. So parents, be watchful of how you motivate your children. Give them all of the resources to make their own choices, and back them up. Give them the freedom to discover their own direction. It may not be the direction you'd hope for, but it is their direction. And with their own direction, they will reach their own destination. It just doesn't work out any other way. Now, if you are one of those people who had the revelation that the life and goals you're pursuing are not your own, you can change it. Just like my friend did. But the change doesn't come overnight. The direction of life can come overnight. A new goal can reach out and grab you in one day, give you the push and the ambition and the momentum to change your course, where you want to be. But the final destination does not happen overnight. It still takes a lot of work. It still takes time for the plans to build, to grow, to run the course. It takes patience. Let's say you have a brilliant idea for starting a new company. What's the first thing you do? You write a business plan and a marketing plan and complete the financial pro formas. You don't expect to have an idea one day and a prospering business the next. No, it doesn't work that way. You've got to take all the right steps, give it care and nurturing and time. Lots of time for your investment to start reaping rewards. You've got to be patient. But here's what does happen. As soon as you turn a new direction, I'm telling you, you've got an excellent chance of a brand new destination.
Over the next 25 minutes or so, Jim will guide you through the same goal-setting workshop that he presents at his most exclusive weekend seminars. We recommend that you complete this activity in a place that is quiet and where you will not be interrupted. We also recommend that you bracket out enough time so that you can complete the workshop in one sitting. You will need a pad of paper, a pen, and a mega dose of curiosity to begin. So if you're ready, here's Jim Rohn to begin the workshop.
Entitle this part of it now, Workshop. And under the workshop, I'm going to ask a series of questions, and it's going to serve as a model so that you can teach this to your children, you can teach it in classes, you can teach it anywhere. And I'm going to give you the question first and then give you time to work the exercise, okay? So you jot down the question and then work the exercise. And if for lack of time, we have to cut you working the exercise a little bit short, it's something you can continue after you've gotten home or whatever. You can continue doing the exercise. But I want to make sure I get through it all so that you have this format to follow on setting goals because I think it's so valuable. Under the workshop, now here's the first question. What 5 things have you already accomplished that you're proud of? Let's take some credit before we go to work on the future. We've accomplished some things in the past. Let's give ourselves credit for that. When you're working with kids, this is important. What 5 things have you already accomplished that you're proud of? So I want you to make a note of that question, and then I want you to do the exercise. Make a list of 5 things that you can think of that you've already accomplished that you're proud of.
Please pause the program and begin the exercise that Jim just described. When you have completed the exercise, resume listening to the program.
You got that now? A list of 5 things you've already accomplished that you're proud of? And sometimes even for kids, you have to do a little coaching. You know, sports or school or whatever. Did you win a blue ribbon? Did you come in first? So this is part of this format, to do a little coaching to help people, get through these exercises. Okay, 5 things you've already accomplished that you're proud of. Okay, now here's the next exercise, and this is going to take some time. Next question. What do you want in the next 10 years? I want you to make a list of at least 50 items. Now, this is not what you think you can get. This is what you want. If everything fell into place and you could have anything you wanted in the next 10 years, what would that list be? Not something you think you can earn, not something you think you can buy, not something you think you can finally be so successful you can get. This is what would really do it for you the next 10 years. I want you to make this list. And here's the deal now. I want you to put each item one under the other. Not side by side, but one under the other. And make as long a list as you possibly can in the time I'm going to give you. One underneath the other, because we're going to do some things with this list when you finish. Just start writing now, as fast as you can. Abbreviate where you can. Make a longer list. If something's private, put it in code so nobody can figure it out if they got a hold of this list. One underneath the other, as fast as you can write. Just let your dreams run free here. Not what you think you can get, but what you want. If everything fell into place and you could have whatever you wanted the next 10 years, what would that be? Little things, major things, insignificant things, doesn't matter. Just make the list. Places you want to visit. What experiences would you like to have in the next 10 years? Parachute out of an airplane? Star in a movie? Play in a rock and roll band? Win a gold medal in the Olympics? Start a new family? Some changes you'd like to make, some habits you'd like to drop, some new ones you'd like to acquire? You might make a list of the people you want to meet over the next 10 years. A cabin in the mountains, a upstairs maid, a cook, a chauffeur. How about your investments, properties? What would really do it for you the next 10 years? What would do it for you? Become a wine connoisseur. I'm learning more and more how to make wine. It's an interesting process. A hobby you'd like to start. Collecting. New car. Become a race driver. Skills you want to help teach your children. I taught my girls how to swim, how to dive. Such great satisfaction when they used to say, "Watch me, Daddy, watch me. Look how good I am. You taught me, watch me." Make a contribution to society. Make a contribution to your community.
Please pause the program and begin the exercise that Jim just described. When you have completed the exercise, resume listening to the program.
Does most everybody have a list of 50 now? Now we're going to do some things with this list. Here's the next exercise. I want you to look at each item on this list you've made and give each item a number. The number being a 1, 3, 5, or 10. And this is why. I want you to look at an item and say, I think that would take about 1 year. Another item, you say, I think that would take about 3 years. Another item, I think that would take 5. And another item, looks like that's going to take 10. Give each item now a number of what you think it might take to achieve that goal. A 1, a 3, a 5, or a 10. Just somewhere close. Doesn't have to be exact. That's about a 1. That's about a 3-year goal. That's about a 5-year goal. That's about a 10-year goal. If it's less than 1 year, just make it a year. If it's more than 10, just make it 10. 10 plus or something. Just approximate 1, 3, 5, 10.
Please pause the program and begin the exercise that Jim just described. When you have completed the exercise, resume listening to the program.
Now, as soon as you've given each item a number, I want you to now go through and count them. How many 1s, how many 3s, how many 5s, how many 10s? And then just make a little list of those numbers. How many 1s, 3s, 5s, 10s?
Please pause the program and begin the exercise that Jim just described. When you have completed the exercise, resume listening to the program.
Okay. Now, make these notes. When you've accomplished some goals, you need some more to accomplish. Next, it's very important when you reach a goal that's significant or important to you to celebrate. So just jot that down. Celebrate a significant accomplishment. Or it doesn't have to be that significant. If it's important to you, it doesn't have to be world-changing or life-changing. If it's just a goal that's really important to you, you finally reached it, celebrate. Now, hopefully on your list of goals, you had some family goals. And if the family together finally reaches a goal, jot this down. Celebrate with the family. And if you're checking it off, let each member of the family put their check mark on this goal because the whole family worked on this one. Now, here's what this will do. It will help each member of your family to make a longer list of goals. Wow, if we can accomplish this, think of what else we could do. The same is true of you individually. When you accomplish something, check it off, celebrate. It'll help you to grab your list, wherever it is, and say, hey, if I can get here, I can double that original list. So celebration creates excitement to develop a longer list. You also need goals ongoing. When the early astronauts went to the moon, some of them, when they came back from the moon, had psychological problems. Some of them drank too much, got into other difficulties. And one of the reasons is, where do you go now that you've been to the moon? So here's what they did later. They made sure that the astronauts later, who came back from the moon, had plenty of projects to keep them busy after they had been to the moon. And the same is true of you and me. Goals, after you've reached them, another list. After you've reached those, another list. My father lived to be 93. You can't imagine the goals he had. One of his goals when he was 92 was to get his driver's license renewed. Guess what he got it renewed for? 4 years. At age 92, he got his driver's license renewed for 4 years. Now, he didn't live long enough to... If he'd have thought about it more, I think he would have lived 2 or 3 more years just to make sure he filled all that out. So he only lived to be 93, but at 92, got my driver's license renewed for 4 years. You can't imagine. He used to show his driver's license on everybody. Unbelievable. So, goals to replace goals that you've achieved, on and on. The rest of your life. How far should you go? As far as you can. How many books should you read? As many as you can. How many friends should you make? As many as you can. How much should you earn? As much as you can. That's it. What should you try to be? All you possibly can. The purpose of this exercise is just to stretch you, get you to think, get you to wonder, get you to ponder. I wonder what might be possible. If I could get everything I wanted, what would that be? Now, here's the next exercise. Okay, jot down the question. On your list of 1-year goals, which are the 4 most important? Of your 1-year goals, which are the 4 most important? So now I want you to go back over your one-year goals and pick out the 4 most important. If you've only got 4 now, this is an easy exercise. But you might add some more to your one-year list if you haven't got enough. And then pick out the 4 most important. This is what turned me on at age 25. Goals for accomplishment and personal progress. Once the fires were lit for me, I'm telling you, they have never gone out. Since I was 25 years old, no one has ever said to me, when are you going to get going? When are you going to get off the couch? When are you going to get off the dime? I've never heard that since I was 25 and got all this taken care of. Wow. Here's what I've heard since I was 25. When are you going to slow down? You can't visit that many countries, you're going to have a heart attack and die. Amazing. I can't say it strong enough. It's easy to get lazy in designing the day and designing the year and designing the future and designing what you want to accomplish and just cross your fingers and hope it'll all work out, that the favorable winds will blow it all your way. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. Keep this up. And one of the best ways to keep it up, teach it. The key is to teach it. You don't need recognition. Just go give everybody you can think of that deserves it recognition. And your own self-satisfaction is recognition enough. If they never put a crown on your head, who cares? Okay, the 4 most important one-year goals.
Please pause the program and begin the exercise that Jim just described. When you have completed the exercise, resume listening to the program.
Have you got those identified? Okay, now here's the next exercise. This will take now just a little bit of time. And the question is why? Why are those 4 goals important to you? Because the why is very important. And I'm going to give you some notes on that a little bit later. So just start a little paragraph. Why those 4 goals are important to you. A couple more minutes for this one.
Please pause the program and begin the exercise that Jim just described. When you have completed the exercise, resume listening to the program.
So make these notes now. Here's the first one. When the why gets stronger, the how gets easier. When the why gets big, powerful, strong, how seems to be so much easier. Without a strong enough why, the how seems to be too difficult almost to accomplish. Say, how do you manage your time? Hey, if you had strong and powerful enough goals, you'd figure out how to manage your time. You'd get a book on the subject. You'd do something to manage your time if it was worth it. If it's not worth it, why would you bother studying the art of managing your time if it really doesn't matter? But if it really mattered in the accomplishment of your goals and why you wish to accomplish them, see, you can do anything. You can get up any hour, read any book, take any class, make any change, develop any skill, do any discipline. You can do it all. When the why starts to grow, the how gets simple. Excellent question to ask children. Why? What for? Little note. Maybe one of your goals was to have $1 million home on the hill overlooking Snake River Valley. Okay. That'd be a good goal. $1 million home. Here's the next question. What for? What for? A house is a house is a house with bricks and wood and walls and roof. The key, yes, $1 million home, that'd be wonderful, but what for? So now jot this down. Purpose is stronger than object. The object would be the house, and that'll pull. That's a worthy goal to go for, the object of the house. But here's a stronger goal, the purpose for the $1 million home. You say, well, it'll be the centerpiece of all the family's activity with all kinds of unique people coming and going and the influence and things will be happening in this place. See, now we're getting somewhere. So if you got that line, it's one of my best for the whole day. Purpose is stronger than object. It's okay to have plenty of objects to go for on your goal list. But always keep asking yourself the question, and sometimes it's good to just write it out. Here's why I want this money. Here's why I want this place. Here's why. And you start developing those reasons. And I'm telling you now, this starts to become incredibly powerful. Okay. Now here's some more notes. Some of your goals should be personal development. The person you wish to become. Develop skills that make you attractive to the marketplace. Develop the temperament and the attitude that makes you attractive to the business world. The attitude and the temperament that makes you a splendid father, studying the art. Because here's what's important. It's not what you get that makes you valuable. It's what you become that makes you valuable. I keep saying this year after year. It's the person you become. I admired my friend Mark Hughes for the fortune he made and the company he built. Guess what I admired more? The person he became in a short 44 years. He was unique. He bought the idea at age 19 of personal development and worked on it daily from that day until the time he died. The idea of becoming an attractive person, a skillful person, a good friend, a good colleague, a good partner, a good member of the round table, a contributor. See, that's the key, the person you become. Okay, now here's the next exercise. Isn't this good stuff? I mean, I'm telling you, this stuff changed my life, altered the course of my life. From milking cows to sitting on this stool. Incredible. What a journey. Now, here's the next exercise. I want you to look now at the whole list that you've written and the exercises we've done. Now I want you to answer this question. What kind of person must I become to achieve all I want? And I'll give you time to write that down now. What kind of person must I become to achieve all I want?
Please pause the program and begin the exercise that Jim just described. When you have completed the exercise, resume listening to the program.
Now we've got two things working. What you become helps you to achieve, and what you achieve helps you to become. And the more you become, the more you can achieve, and the more you achieve, the more you can become. Who knows which affects the other the most? So now just write this exercise. Start with a few sentences. We won't have time for you to, take a lot of time. But just start with a few sentences. Your concept of the person you think you must become to achieve what you want. This is time for a little truth here. Maybe you need to become much wiser than you are at the moment. You need to become stronger. You need to have better health. Maybe you need a little coaching. To really become the person I want to become, I'm going to have some coaching. Physical coaching, spiritual coaching, developing skills coaching. To be the influence you want to be, you've got to build an incredible reputation. What kind of person must I be to attract all that I want in my life and the people that I want and the opportunities that I want? When you knock on the door and opportunity opens, you must stand there as a very attractive person, or you may not be invited in. One of the most mysterious and unique phrases that Jesus ever used. Here's what he said. I stand at the door and knock. And if you opened the door, would you probably invite him in? This extraordinary person. You say, wow, yeah. And he said, if you invite me, I'll come in and sit down. Talk things over. For you to be that kind of attractive person, if you knocked on the door of opportunity and it opened and you stood there, would you be the kind of person that opportunity would say, come right in and sit down and let's talk about the future? Wow. What kind of person? Well, I'm going to tell you how to overcome procrastination. I'm going to show you how to turn procrastination into perseverance. And if you do what I suggest, the process will be virtually painless. I'm going to be very specific about how you can do this. I refer to a negative vision of the future as a mental tool for inactivity. If you've been using that tool, I'm going to ask you to toss it aside and start using two other very powerful principles that foster productivity and perseverance instead of passivity and procrastination. The first principle is break it down. No matter what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's writing a book or climbing a mountain or painting a house, the key to achievement is your ability to break down the task into manageable pieces and knock them off one at a time. Focus on accomplishing what's right in front of you at this moment and ignore what's off in the distance someplace. Substitute real-time positive thinking for negative future visualization. That's the first all-important technique for bringing an end to procrastination. Suppose I were to ask you if you could write a 400-page novel. If you're like most people, that would be an impossible task. As soon as I ask you that question, a picture appears in your mind of a big fat book lying on a coffee table, hundreds and hundreds of words covering every page. Yes, somebody must have written the book that you see in your mind's eye, but that person surely wasn't you. But suppose I ask you a different question. Suppose I ask if you can write a page and a quarter a day for 1 year. Do you think you could do it? Now the task is starting to seem more manageable. We're breaking down the 400-page book into bite-sized pieces. But even so, I suspect many people would still find the prospect intimidating. Do you see why? Writing a page and a quarter may not seem so bad, but you're being asked to look ahead 1 whole year. When people start to look that far ahead, many of them automatically go into a negative mode. So let me formulate the idea of writing a book in yet another way. Let me break it down even more. Suppose I were to ask you, can you fill up a page and a quarter with words not for a year, not for a month, not even for a week, but just today? Don't look any further ahead than that. I believe most people would confidently declare that they could accomplish that. And of course, these would be the same people who feel totally incapable of writing a whole book. Then if I said the same thing to those people tomorrow, if I told them, I don't want you to look back, I don't want you to look ahead, I just want you to fill up a page and a quarter this day. Do you think you can do it? 1 day at a time. You've probably heard that phrase. That's what we're doing here. We're breaking the time required for a major task down into 1-day segments. And we're breaking the work involved in writing a 400-page book down into page and a quarter increments. Keep this up for 1 year, and you'll write the book. Discipline yourself to look neither forward nor backward, and you can accomplish things you never thought you could possibly do. One of the beauties of this technique is the fact that you can really take it to the extremes if you have to. If writing a page and a quarter during 1 day still seems too much for you, break it down even more. Try to write 3 sentences in the next hour. Don't look any further ahead than that. Come up with a way of looking at the task that finally seems manageable. Then all you have to do is persevere. Procrastination won't be a problem, because the task is now so small that fear won't kick in. And it all begins with those 3 words: break it down. My second technique for defeating procrastination is also only 3 words long. The 3 words are, write it down. We've seen how important writing is to goal setting. The writing you'll do for beating procrastination is very similar, but instead of focusing on the future, you're now going to be writing about the present, just as you experience it every day. Instead of describing the things that you want to do or the places you want to go, you're going to describe what you actually do with your time, and you're going to keep a written record of the places you actually go. In other words, you're going to keep a diary of your activities, and you're going to be amazed by the distractions, detours, and downright wastes of time that you come up with during the course of a day. All of these get in the way of achieving your goals. For many people, it's almost like they planned it that way, and maybe at some unconscious level, they did. The great thing about keeping a time diary is that it brings all this out in the open. It forces you to see what you're actually doing and what you're not doing. The time diary doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Just buy a little spiral notebook that you can easily carry in your pocket. When you go to lunch, when you drive across town, when you go to the dry cleaners, when you spend some time shooting the breeze at the copy machine, make a quick note of the time you began the activity and the time it ended. Try to make this notation as soon as possible, but if it's inconvenient to do it immediately, you can do it later. But you should make an entry in your time diary at least once every 30 minutes. And you should keep this up for at least a week. What else do you have to do to gain the benefits of this extremely powerful productivity technique? Nothing. You don't have to do anything else at all. It's just a process for making yourself aware of how you actually spend your time. You will naturally and effortlessly begin to reorganize your life. Perhaps that seems like too much to believe, but it's true. When you're forced to write down the fact that you hung out at the coffee machine for 15 minutes today, you'll think twice about doing that again tomorrow. When you've got to put it in writing that you worked on an important project for 30 minutes today and then took a break to read the newspaper, you'll persevere a little longer on the project tomorrow and forget about the newspaper. Just try keeping a time diary for 1 week, and you'll see how it can revolutionize your ability to focus and achieve your goals. Break it down, write it down. Very easy to understand, very straightforward. But these are powerful and effective productivity techniques. This is how you put an end to procrastination. This is how you get yourself started. But how do you keep going? How do you keep your motivation consistently high? How do you learn to persevere when the novelty is worn off and you're still some distance from your goal? We'll talk about that in a moment. The Irish poet William Butler Yeats once wrote a poem describing some of the unfortunate characteristics of the modern world. One of the things Yeats noticed was the fact that bad people seem to have the most energy, while good people become discouraged and doubtful of their own abilities. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are filled with a passionate intensity. Those are the words Yeats used. And it's true that we can look around the world and see all sorts of things happening that we might wish were not happening. And there are people working very hard to make those things happen for reasons that we might not admire. And when we see that, it's easy to start saying, what's the use? What hope do I really have? Why don't I just give up on all the things I've been trying to accomplish and just start taking it easy? Even people of strong character feel that way sometimes. All of us have moments like that. That's when perseverance gets really, really tough. What's the answer? Well, you recall that during our discussion of goal setting, I asked you to list 5 categories for your long-term goals. What do you want to do? What do you want to be? What do you want to see? What do you want to have? Where do you want to go? Now I want you to add another one. With whom do you want to share? In other words, who are you working for besides yourself? In the first 5 categories, you were asked to focus exclusively on your own aspirations and why they were important to you. But now I want you to think in terms of other people. Who is depending on you? Who will benefit if you persevere and succeed? Who will suffer if you give up and stop trying? Who can you reach out to and help once you've achieved your goals? Write down answers to these questions, just like you wrote answers for the other categories. For many people, the answers will appear quite readily. If you have a family, your spouse and your children are depending on you. Perhaps even your parents are depending on you now, if they're elderly and require some care. But even if you're a single person or just starting out in your career, you can think of reasons to persevere and succeed that go beyond your personal needs. Maybe you would like to share some of your financial success with the schools that educated you, or with the religious institutions that gave you spiritual guidance, or with a hospital that helped to heal you on some occasion. This sharing doesn't have to be limited to money either. If your work has given you certain skills, you can share your time and your abilities. You can, and you should. But even this isn't putting it strongly enough. It isn't just that you'll do better if you feel you're working for others in addition to yourself. You absolutely must find reasons outside yourself to persevere if you want to keep going when the going gets tough. Hemingway wrote, "A man alone hasn't got a chance." And that doesn't mean only that you need people to help you in life. It means also that you need people you can help. You need people who can become the real reasons for perseverance above and beyond your material possessions or your financial success. What's in it for me can only take you so far. What's in it for somebody besides me can take you as far as you need to go. In the last days of World War II, the American cruiser Indianapolis was sunk by an enemy submarine. This was one of the most tragic incidents of the war for American forces, in which hundreds of men lost their lives. Many who made it through the initial attack had to spend days and nights in the water before rescuers arrived. The experience of trying to stay alive in the water was so overwhelming that many people simply gave up. In fact, the survivors reported later that virtually everyone wanted to give up at one time or another. But whenever someone wanted to quit trying, the others would talk to him about the people back home who needed him, who were depending on him to survive. And if there was no one who was depending on him right then, they would talk about people in the future who would someday be needing him, people he hadn't met yet, people who hadn't even been born yet. They conjured up all sorts of reasons above and beyond simply surviving. This motivation beyond the self was the only motivation that was strong enough. And what was true in an extreme sense for those men in wartime is also true in all our lives, no matter what we're trying to accomplish. We began this discussion with some mention of racehorses and how the best of them can overcome any challenge in a race. I don't know what motivates a racehorse, whether it's a bale of hay just beyond the finish line or the thought of resting in a warm stall, but I doubt there's much thought of what he can do for the other horses. Well, that's one big difference between horses and people. People depend on one another, and people of strong character take pride in what they can do for others. Challenge yourself to become a person like that, and come what may, you will have the strength to persevere.
While achieving great goals, earning a high income, and achieving unparalleled success in one's career or business is a desire of nearly everyone listening to this audio library, Jim Rohn knew that it was not enough to be financially successful. After achieving all of those outcomes and being acknowledged as a wonder kid of success at age 31, he lost it all, going bankrupt. The lessons he learned from that experience caused him to not only achieve greater success more quickly, but to sustain and grow his financial success throughout his life. In Volume 7, Strategies for Financial Independence, you'll hear some of Jim's best ideas on how to be financially successful in your life.
Let's now cover financial independence. At least we'll get started. Everybody has to wrestle now with their own concept of financial independence or getting rich or becoming wealthy. I know some people are a little uncomfortable with those kind of phrases, and I can understand that. You know, we've heard the phrase, which is true, to love money would certainly be evil. But money's not evil. There is some evil ways to acquire it. The difference between greed and ambition. Contrary to the movie Wall Street, greed is not good. Greed is evil and must be dealt with. Greed is evil. Greed hopes for something for nothing. Greed hopes for more than its share. Greed hopes for something at the expense of others. We call that evil. Right? We should lock them up. It's true. Make them pay the price. Greed is not good. Here's what is good. Ambition. Legitimate ambition. Legitimate ambition says, I only want something at the service of others. Not the expense of others, but at the service of others. Jesus gave the greatest scenario for success when he said, whoever wishes to be the greatest. Nothing wrong with wishing to be the greatest. It's called enlightened self-interest. But he gave the key to those who wish to be the greatest. Here's what he said. Find a way to serve the most. Service to many leads to greatness. Not the expense of many. Not at the calamity of many. The greed for power caused Stalin, in his day and time, to kill 30 million of his own countrymen. His greed and lust for power was so powerful. It is true. Absolute power corrupts, absolutely. Stalin, probably one of the best examples. He was willing to kill 30 million of his own countrymen to satisfy his greed for power. Power at the expense of others, not at the service of others, but at the expense of others. But Jesus turns the whole scenario around and says, to be the greatest, the most powerful, is a worthy ambition as long as it's done in this mode. Here it is, at the service of many. Service to many leads to great wealth. Service to many leads to great recognition. Service to many leads to great satisfaction. Zig Ziglar probably said it as well as anybody could say it. If you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything you want. That's not greed. It's called legitimate ambition at the service of. But I know some people have, they're struggling with this idea, and we talk about how to get rich. I've been teaching kids, right, all these years. How to be rich by 40, 35 if you're extra bright, much sooner if you find a unique opportunity. And some people are a little disturbed by that, teaching kids how to get rich, teaching kids how to make a fortune. So I've modified it a little bit, and here's the best I've been able to come up with. And that is the goal to become financially independent. A little softer than rich, a little softer than make a fortune, and sometimes it's a little easier for it to go down, or at least comprehend, if it's put, I think, in these terms, financial independence. Here's my definition of financial independence. The ability to live from the income of your own personal resources. It's powerful. And I think it's a worthy goal. I think it's a worthy and legitimate ambition. To render good service, to develop skills in the marketplace, and to become so valuable that you can have the resources, and finally, have enough resources, well invested, to where you could live independent from the income of your own personal resources. Then if you do wise things with your resources and the income, all the things you'd like to do, the projects you'd like to support, things you'd like to take care of that you can't take care of now, I think it's a worthy ambition, financial independence. With that background, let me recommend a book for you to read. The title is The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason. Perhaps you've already read it. I would suggest that you read it again. It's just a small book. You can read it in one evening. I call it the appetizer for the full discourse on the subject of financial independence. Now, let me give you the major theme of the book. The major theme is that what you do with what you have is more important than what you have. What you do with what you get is more important than what you get. What we do with what we have says so much about us. It reveals our philosophy of life, our attitude, what we know, and what we think, and the makeup of our character. It is a reflection of what is going on inside of our head and within our value system and decision-making process. It also reveals our ability to weigh and to perceive. The outer is always a reflection of the inner. It is an indication, a reading, a revealing. It speaks, it tells, it shows. Remember that key phrase I gave you earlier? Everything is symptomatic of something, and it is symptomatic of something right or something wrong. It is a wise policy not to ignore the symptoms, for they can be early signs of a poor choice of philosophy, or a sign that something important is being misread, misunderstood, miscalculated. So of all places, take a look here. What you are doing with your money says something about you. Now, what you're doing may be okay. All I'm suggesting is that you take a look. Let me give you some of the details of a good financial plan as suggested by Clason's book. First, a very broad but important statement. Learn to live on 70% of your net income. Net meaning the money you have left after paying your taxes. The reason it's 70 is because you're going to be doing some very special things with the 30%. So what's left, 70%, is yours to spend. Now let's talk about the all-important subject of how you allocate the 30%. I remember one day saying to Mr. Schoaf, if I had more money, I would have a better plan. He said to me, Mr. Rohn, I would suggest that if you had a better plan, you would have more money. So it's not the amount that counts, it's the plan that counts. It's not what you allocate, it's how you allocate it. Here's the first part of the allocation process. Of the 30% you're not spending, 10% should go to charity, giving back part of what you have taken out to help those who cannot help themselves. I think that's a good percentage. Now, you can pick your own percentage. It's your life, and it's your plan. But giving your money to a church or to an institution is a good idea. More often than not, they can find the people who are in need. But whether you administer it yourself or give it to an institution to distribute, 10% should be given to charity. And by the way, the best time to teach this allocation process is when a child gets his first dollar. Take him on a visual tour. There's nothing better than visual to illustrate what you're trying to teach. Take him to where some very unfortunate people live who cannot take care of themselves. Kids have big hearts. If they see the problem, they won't have any trouble giving a dime out of every dollar. And one more thing. The time to start this is when the amounts are small. It's pretty easy to flip a dime out of a dollar, and it's a little more difficult to give away 100,000 out of 1,000,000. You say, oh, if I had 1,000,000, I'd give 100,000. I'm not so sure. That's a lot of money. Best we start you early, so you will have the habit before the big money comes your way. Now, here's what to do with the next 10%. Set aside 10% for capital you manage. That is, capital you find ways to utilize. Do some buying and selling yourself. Buy something, fix it, and sell it. Engage in commerce, even if it's only a part-time venture. Your home is a major capital project. In my opinion, we should all engage in capitalism in this country. Here, we believe capital belongs in the hands of the people. Communism teaches that capital belongs in the hands of the state. That's a great difference in ideology. I guess communism feels that humans are too dumb and stupid to know what to do with capital, so it should all be given to the state. Let the state run everything, and let the people meekly show up for their work assignments. In our country, we believe the genius to know what to do with capital resides in the populace, the people, the genius to come up with ideas for goods and services brought to the marketplace. It has built a dynamic enterprise known as capitalism and has created opportunities in abundance. Now, here's the third 10 cents from every dollar, and that is capital you provide. Take 10 cents out of every dollar and put it in a financial institution. And now we have come to a major benefit for all of us if you bring this 10% of your earnings to the marketplace. You see, some projects in our society need more capital than one person can provide. So we have a system whereby all of us can loan or invest our money in capital provided, so that large businesses can be built to provide more jobs and products and service and help create an even more dynamic society. So 10 cents out of every dollar should go into a savings account. I really prefer to call it an investment account because, and kids will love this, they pay you for the use of your money. You can get back the money you loaned, and you will have more profit from what you are paid for the use of your money. And be sure that you teach this, that if kids start this program from whatever they earn on a job, or in engaging in enterprise, or both, while they are in their teens, by the time they are 40, they will be wealthy enough to be able to do what they want to do the rest of their lives, instead of all their lives doing what they have to do. Now, from your teenage years, it could take a much shorter period of time to become financially independent, depending on what ideas and opportunities you take advantage of. Mrs. Fields developed a new chocolate chip cookie and became a millionaire before she was 30. Mrs. Fields chocolate chip cookies. What an example of capital in the hands of the people, not in the hands of the state. A 10-year-old takes $1, searches around the community and finds a broken, abandoned wagon, pays $1 for it, brings it home, cleans it up, sands off the rust, paints it till it's shiny and new, straightens out the wheel, and sells the like-new wagon for $11. You ask, does a 10-year-old deserve $10 profit? And the answer is, of course. Society now has a mended wagon. And that's what it's all about. Find something and leave it better than you found it. Create a value. Build an equity. It's how we build this most dynamic society called America. And everyone can contribute. Everyone can bring some value to the marketplace. We can all be students of capital, profit, equity, and value. We can all engage in enterprise. We can all participate in the disciplines that bring wealth of lifestyle and treasure. All of us and our children can build the most powerful and attractive society ever. We have the knowledge, the tools, the schools, the market, the resources. All we need is the will. Let each of us begin. Its riches are for the having. Here's 2 or 3 more parts of financial independence. Number 1, keep strict accounts. This is the best of disciplines. Keep strict accounts. Did you ever hear this expression? I don't know where it all goes. Did you ever hear that? I don't know where it all goes. Oh, we'd love to have you run our company. You don't know where it all goes. Whoa. Did you ever hear this? It just gets away from me. It just seems it just gets away from me. We'd love to turn the world over you. It just gets away from you. Come on, you got to have better disciplines than that. Let that be the 90%. Let that be the scenario of the 97%, but don't let it be your scenario. Don't let it become your philosophy. Keep strict accounts. Next, a new attitude. I had to develop a new attitude as well as new concepts. Here's what I used to say. I hate to pay my taxes. Shoaff said, well, that's one way to live. I thought, well, doesn't everybody hate to pay their taxes? He said, no. No, a few of us have gotten way past that. He says, once you understand what taxes are, here's what taxes are in our governmental system in our society. Taxes is how you care and feed the goose that lays the golden eggs. Democracy and liberty and freedom. Free enterprise. Wouldn't you want to feed the goose that lays the golden eggs? Somebody says, well, the goose eats too much. That's probably true. I understand that. Of course that's true. But see, better a fat goose than no goose. And here's the truth be known. We all eat too much. Let not one appetite accuse another. Of course the government needs to go on a diet. So do most of us. But hey, you still have to care and feed the goose that lays the golden eggs once you understand that that's what it's for. See, it is so important, the right attitude. Here's what I used to say. I hate to pay my bills. You open up the mails, nothing but these window envelopes. Bills, I hate to pay my bills. Shoaff said, well, that's one way to live. I said, well, doesn't everybody hate to pay their bills? He said, no, some of us are way beyond that. I said, is it possible to love to pay your bills? He said, yes. Reduce your liabilities? Increase your assets? Wouldn't you love to do that? So start a whole new attitude here. Next time you pay $100 on an account, put a little note in there and say, with great delight, I send you this $100. I mean, they don't get many letters like that. Reduce my liabilities, increase my assets. My picture's changing. My picture's improving. I love to pay my bills. Keep the money in circulation. Pay my taxes. Feed the goose that lays the golden eggs. It's a matter of attitude. And here's the last on attitude. Everybody must pay. Of course, life is called opportunity, but life is called price. But we must all pay. We must all share. One of the classic stories of all time from ancient Bible script says, Jesus one day and his disciples were standing by the church treasury, synagogue treasury, watching people as they came by and put their offering in the treasury. That wouldn't be a bad idea. Jesus and his disciples standing by the treasury while everybody walks by. Jesus said, how much was that? How much was that? Interesting. And the story said some people came by, put in big amounts. Some people came by, put in modest amounts, average amounts. And the story says, then a little lady comes by and puts in 2 pennies in the treasury. Jesus says to his disciples, look at that. Look at that. His disciples said, 2 pennies, 2 pennies, what's 2 pennies? Jesus said, no, you don't understand. She gave more than everybody else. They said, 2 pennies is more than everybody else? He said, yes. Because I'm certain that her 2 pennies represented most of what she had. And if you give most of what you have, then you've given the most. Wow. What a lesson to learn. It's not the amount. It's what it represents of your life that counts. Now let me give you the wisdom of the scenario that did not occur. And this is the greatest of wisdom. And in my own particular peculiar brilliance, I have the ability to record for you what was not recorded in the scenario of the story. Here's what did not occur, which may teach us one of the greatest of the wise things that was taught in the scenario. Here's what did not occur in the scenario. Jesus did not reach into the treasury and get this little lady's 2 pennies and run after her and say, "Here, little lady, my disciples and I have decided that you're so pitiful and you're so poor that we've decided to give you back your 2 pennies. I'm telling you, that did not occur. If it would have occurred, it would have been what? Insulted. She would have rightfully said, "I know my 2 pennies aren't much, but it represented most of what I had. And would you insult me by not letting me contribute what I wanted to contribute, even if it's only 2 pennies? I'm telling you that did not occur." Here's part of the wisdom of the story that was not recorded. Jesus left her pennies in the treasury, meaning everybody has to pay, even if it's only pennies. That's the key. And whether you start with pennies or whether you start with dollars or whether you start with nothing, remember, part of the scenario is to spend, of course. Part of the scenario is to invest, and part of the scenario is to show a profit, and part of the scenario is to help take care of people who can't take care of themselves. If you'll set up your own philosophy, I'm not asking you to buy my philosophy, I'm not asking you to adopt my numbers, I'm only wanting to provoke you to think, for you to come up with a splendid economic philosophy that's got you up early and got you up late, it's got you thinking and pondering ways to use your resources and turn it into the dreams you want for the future. Could you repeat that after me? Yes, of course. That helps to emphasize it. That's called exclamation point. And kids with wide eyes will say, "Is that right? Can you start at the bottom and someday multiply your income by 10? The answer is, of course, of course, of course. Now, if you multiplied it by 10, can you think of anybody that makes $500 an hour? I'm telling you, the Beverly Hills lawyers where I live make at least $500 an hour. Now we've multiplied income by 10 again. Would it be possible to multiply your income by 10 and then multiply by 10 again? Now, see, that's a little weak. I'm trying to make you believers. To those that believe, here's what Scripture says. All things are possible. There isn't anything that's impossible. The most incredible things are possible to believers. Not hopers. Not hopers. Believers. Wow. $500 an hour. Would it be possible to multiply your income by 10 again? Of course. $5,000 an hour? What do you suppose I get paid? I'm telling you, it's possible to multiply your income by 10 and then by 10 and then by 10. I lecture with Norman Schwarzkopf, the old general. Guess what he gets paid for a speech? $65,000 for 1 hour. 65,000, not 5,000, right? 65,000. I had lunch with Colin Powell, and I was on that speaking panel for one of those multi-speaker seminars. And I think he got paid like $70,000. It's a fun lunch with somebody that gets paid $75,000 for an hour. Unbelievable. Now, the person that's on up here, right, like Bill Gates and, who knows who else here, that makes $68 million in 1 year. We say, well, is that legitimate to pay someone $68 million in 1 year? And the answer is, of course. If they helped the company make $1 billion last year, would the company pay them $68 million? The answer is yes, it's chicken feed. It ain't that much. Key phrase to jot down, everything is relative. Everything is relative. What might seem like a lot now, I'm telling you, some time from now for you won't seem that much. You say, wow, I was a small thinker back then, thinking, $4,000 a month was a lot of money. $8,000 a month was really something. I remember those days when $8,000 a month was unbelievable. And then $15,000 a month. Wow, I couldn't believe it. How about $20,000 a month? Incomprehensible. And I flew on by that. How about $30,000 a month? I flew on by that. Unbelievable. How about 50? How about $80,000 a month? I remember when I went right on by. It was incredible. Getting paid by the week. I remember when it was, right, $20,000 a week and then $30,000 a week. How about $40,000 a week? How much property will they let you own? As much as you want, all you want and all you wish. Here's the country you live in. All you want and all you wish. That's about as good as we can make it. Next, here's the philosophy of the rich and the philosophy of the poor. First, the philosophy of the poor. Poor people, now this is not demeaning now. This is simply people of modest means. People of modest means tend to spend their money and invest what's left. If they have anything left over, they might save it or invest it. That's the philosophy, the poor philosophy. To spend your money, save what's left. Here's the philosophy of the rich. To invest your money and spend what's left. It's the same money. It's just a different attitude and a different philosophy. Either spend your money, save what's left, or invest your money, spend what's left. When I was 25 years old, my mentor, Mr. Schoaf, said, "Show me your current financial plan for the future." And of course, I didn't have one. He said, well, this would be a good time to lay out a good financial plan for the future, what to do with your money. And I came up finally with the 70, 10, 10, and 10. Don't spend more than 70% of your income. 10% for church or charity. 10 cents active capital, buy and sell, see if you can make a profit. And 10% for passive capital, let somebody else use your money. Pay you interest, dividends, stock increase, whatever. It's a pretty good plan, 70, 10, 10, and 10. A lady in Mexico the other day said, I heard your plan 10 years ago. I followed it. She said, I'm now a millionaire. I own 2 different properties because you also said don't buy the second car until you've bought the second house. It's not cars that make you rich. It's real estate that makes you rich. She said, I'm now about to buy the 3rd house, so I'm now giving myself the luxury of buying the 3rd car. Simple little ideas. And she said, I followed the 70, 10, 10, and 10, taught it to other people. They're following it and getting great results. One thing I didn't know when I was growing up and found out at age 25, that you could work both on your living and your fortune at the same time if you had a good plan. Don't just work on your living, work on your fortune. Work on becoming financially independent. Financial independence is the ability to live from the income of your personally invested resources. And the day you can finally do that, what's exciting about that is that now you can work for joy and not for necessity. And strangely enough, you probably work a lot harder for joy than you do for necessity. I have a unique friend. He started an enterprise, and by the time he had it up and running about 2.5, 3 years, he didn't have to work anymore the rest of his life. So now he's financially independent. But then he created a vast fortune, that next 20 years of his life, simply because he was working for joy and not for necessity. So get to that position as quick as you can. So I'm now teaching. Work both on your living and your fortune. The reason for earning a living is to make a fortune, not necessarily from your living, but from what you earn, invested wisely. I talked to a lady the other day. She said, Mr. Rohn, I'm in real estate. I said, wonderful. How many properties do you own? She said, no, I sell real estate. I said, well, let me ask you one more time. How many properties do you own? Finally got the message across.